I wouldn't get caught up in the social media game. I would just study with great artists and try to get as great as you can. Try to find that one or two artists that are going to really help you grow as a draftsman and as a painter. These guys are not succeeding accidentally. You need to get around great artists and pick their brains and watch them.
You're tuned in to the Creative Endeavour Podcast, where we dive deep into the art of perseverance and passion. Uncover the victories, setbacks, and lessons of artists who shape their dreams into success. If you're striving to push your boundaries, this podcast offers the tools to stay inspired and connected. It's real conversations with real artists. My name's Andrew Tischler. What a pleasure to have your company in the studio once again. Now, in this episode, I'm welcoming back a Creative Endeavour favorite. I'm talking to the one and only Thomas Fluharty, who's got to be one of my favorite artists working today. Thomas is dialed in. He's so connected and so passionate about what he does, and his energy and enthusiasm for art and drawing is totally infectious. Now, Thomas has had such an impact on my life personally. He has inspired things like the Sketch Endeavor. Now, he didn't say, hey, dude, you got to go and start this YouTube series called The Sketch Endeavor, The Daily Habit of Drawing. But it was just hearing him talk about his approach to drawing and how passionate he is about what he does. And I'm like, you know what? I got to do something here. And hence it gave rise to this little idea. He planted the seed and I just took it away and ran with it, I guess. But it's not only that, but it's how he approaches life as well. And he's a great example of an artist who is just totally authentic. There will only ever be one Thomas Fluharty. And it's such a joy to have these opportunities to connect with him and talk with him. Now, in this conversation, there was also an interesting opportunity for us to reflect on faith and art and that intersection between the two. Now, maybe you're there on that train, maybe not, but still, I think it was an interesting part of this conversation, so I kept it in here. But Thomas, being a man of faith, has some really interesting insights when it comes to using the gift that he's been given and really maximizing on that. And it's led to some interesting opportunities which have come up recently for him. Now, right now, if you're not already doing so, make sure you're following Thomas on his Instagram. He can be found at Thomas Fluharty. That last name is spelled Fluharty, and on his website at www.thomasfluharty.com. Make sure you're following his phenomenal work there. Now, his work can be characterized as just some of the coolest drawing you're going to see. He does a lot of caricatures. He does a lot of political cartoons. He's been an illustrator for decades. He's been on the cover of magazines like Der Spiegel and Mad Magazine, and now he's producing his own books, his own lines of different products, but also just some insanely brilliant artwork as well. And that's been so inspiring to watch and follow his creative journey over on his Instagram page. So make sure you're following him on Instagram. Before we get stuck into this conversation, though, I just want to take a quick minute and tell you about the sponsor of the Creative Endeavour Podcast, Rosemary & Co. Brushes. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your brushes were holding you back? Look, I know I did, until I switched to Rosemary & Co. brushes. Now, these brushes are seriously a game changer. They've been making brushes for over 40 years, specializing in oils, acrylics, and watercolor. And let me tell you, they are simply the best brushes out there. Personally, I noticed a huge difference in my work when I started using them. And the quality is unmatched. It's second to none. And my technique has improved because these brushes give me the control and the precision that I need. And I honestly now will not use anything else. So if you're ready to step up your game, I would highly suggest visiting rosemaryandco.com. They've got everything you need to take your art to the next level when it comes to brushes, that is. So visit rosemaryandco.com. Trust me, you won't regret it, and your art will thank you. And a huge shout out and thank you to Rosemary & Co. for sponsoring this episode of the Creative Endeavour. And just one more thing before we get into the podcast, there is an exclusive video version of this podcast. If you want to see myself, Thomas in our studios. I'll be cutting in images of our artwork. Well, his artwork anyway. You've probably already seen mine. You've had enough of that stuff. But you can see some of his stuff that he's been working on. Then make sure you tune into the official video version, and you can find that exclusively on Tisch Academy. That's tisch.academy. That link is in the description that accompanies this podcast. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Here he is. This is Thomas Fluharty and the Creative Endeavour. You've been here before. You know what the deal is. Welcome back to the
I'm
podcast.
a fanboy. Yeah. Hey, man, it's great to be back, dude. I mean, this has been like, I set it on my calendar and I was like, yeah, gotta remember Andrew. So
Thank you, brother.
it's a joy to chat with you, man. I love you and I love what you're doing. You're always inspiring people. You're always going a million miles a minute. And, dude, you're like Mr. Entrepreneur. So I study you, man.
Oh, Struth. Wow. Okay, dude, you're going to make me blush. I'm glad I've got a blue light on me here. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Hey, man, look, I've got so many things that I want to touch base on here in this podcast. We always have so much to talk about. But there's a lot of different directions I want to go in. But I gotta just shout you out real quick here, Thomas, because you know, and people will remember this from the first couple of episodes that we did together, but you were instrumental, bro, like absolutely instrumental in me starting this. The first, it was a Sketch Endeavour series. So you just had this passion for drawing, and you're like, man, I just got to draw every day. That got just stuck in my head. It's like, yeah, I gotta draw every day. That's right. I got to do what Thomas Fluharty's doing here. So I really got to give you credit. You gave me that idea. You started that thing, and then I was off. Now it hasn't quite turned into every day, but it's been a really good journey, man, so far. Yeah, I know. But look, lots of stuff I want to talk to you about. But where do we find Thomas Fluharty now? What's new in your world? What's been happening?
Boy, this last weekend was absolutely insane. So it's been crazy. So 8 months ago, let me see, maybe it was almost a year ago in October. I had this guy reach out to me. Well, I just want to say this. So this is interesting because it fits into how we handle ourselves as artists, right?
Mm.
So this guy reached out to me and he wrote me this nice email and he said, "Man, I love your work. You know, I love what you're doing." And he fired off all these wonderful, very nice, encouraging, uplifting comments. And he said, "I work at Disney. I've worked at DreamWorks for 13, 15 years or whatever. And I worked at Disney and here's my work. And I'd love to chat with you if you ever get a chance." And I looked at his work and I was like, "Oh, dude, he's friggin' awesome." And his name is Samuel Mishlap.
Mm-hmm.
And so he worked on Shark Tales. He worked on Prince of Egypt. He's a real deal. And he and I just started chatting, and I would make time for him, and he would make time for me. But when I said I would make time for him, I didn't mean that in a superior way. What I meant was he would call out of the blue, and he would just be like, "Oh my gosh, Sam's calling me." Like, that doesn't happen. People just don't call people. Like, you set up a time. Sam would call and be like, "Oh man, I'm gonna get in an hour-long conversation with Sammy right now." And I'd be like, "Hello, what's up, Sammy?" And we would just chat, right? But I was so busy, but I just took time because I just loved the guy and I just wanted to talk to him. But he was in such a transitional place in his career, and he was picking my brain about Instagram and all this stuff. But we just became friends, and I took time anytime he called just to chat. And so
I love that.
it was like just trying to help him, right? Just trying to help him think and help him navigate. And he was just he was the real deal, though. I mean, the dude is awesome. And so, anyways, he called me, and we'd been chatting on and off. And then he called me like in October last year, just before Lightbox, and he said, "Dude, I got something for you tomorrow. 200 million people watch this show. I was like, 200 million people? He's like, actually, it's 600 million. It's the largest crowd. It's the most successful crowd-funded show ever in the history of crowdfunding. I was like, what? And then so he called me, he zoomed me the next day and he walked me through this possible job. And
Mhm.
it was he wanted me to draw Jesus for The Chosen. The Chosen, I don't know if you know The Chosen.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
it's an anime, it's a live action, but they were doing an animated series.
Wow.
And they asked me if I wanted to do the character designs for all of it. And at first I was hesitant because I think Christian artists can be super cheesy, and there's so much cheese around stuff that is Christian that I was like, I don't know. But anyways, as I listened and listened to his vision, he's the production designer. And there was another amazing artist that had done all these other sculpts that I absolutely love. I love this artist. I just drew Jesus for a couple days and drew sheep and a pigeon. And it went into these meetings and side by side, and then they chose mine over the other guys. There was maybe two other guys, and I got that gig, and it was just an incredible opportunity of the last 8 months designing these characters, and now
Wow.
they just yeah. So and the dude that did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was in part of it. He's the producer at the studio called Out of Order Studios. There's another dude that created Jimmy Neutron. I don't know if you know Jimmy Neutron,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
but
familiar
his
with it.
name's Keith. So
Mm.
Keith is in, and we all, and then Ryan Swanson, who's the showrunner, great writer. But it was just this incredible team experience of building something unbelievable. And so now they just dropped it and announced it on Saturday. Dallas Jenkins, who sort of started the series, the show,
Mhm.
and it's just this incredibly cool animation. It's a comedy adventure, is what it is, but it's been an unbelievable thing. So that was a full-time job of 40 hours a week for 8 straight months, and it was incredible. And so then this last weekend, just yesterday, and this whole weekend, I was in a show called the American Narratives Show
Mhm.
in Dallas with Glenn Beck. He's a radio media personality, and he invited all these artists in the show to accompany his artifacts. So he's got like artifacts of Lucille Ball. He's got a Archie Bunker's chair from All in the Family. He's got a letter from the Hindenburg, that survived. That he's got stuff from the Titanic. So he invited like 30 artists to come in to accompany and create imagery for this show.
Amazing.
And I did Star Wars, Schindler's List, and I did Wizard of Oz art and Buffalo Bill and another Indian thing. Anyways, all this to say, you asked me, so I'm telling you.
That's cool,
Um,
man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go,
yeah.
go.
So, anyways, I went to this show and I created all these pieces over the last few years. And that's a whole nother story of that. But all these people showed up. And so, like, Thomas Blackshear is an amazing artist. He was in the show.
Mm.
Another guy, a friend of mine, Frank Ordaz, was in the show. And these dudes are pricing their work like, 50,000,
Wow.
and they friggin' sold out. So some of these dudes walked away with a ton of money. I mean, I sold all five of my pieces. At the end of the show, one of them didn't sell at that moment, and Glenn Beck, did the show, came up to me and he said, "Hey Thomas, would you sell me your Yoda for Star Wars?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What? You don't want to sell it?" I was like, "No, dude, I'll sell it." But there was a way the auction was going off. Anyways, he bought this painting for his son, and I sold everything. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, this was crazy." So I just came through this whole thing of being encouraged, basically, because I've been in a few shows this year, and I didn't sell any of my drawings. I was in a
Mhm.
Hellboy show. I didn't sell that drawing. I was in another show in December. I sold one.
Yeah.
And then, like, I was in another cowboy show and I didn't sell anything. So we start doubting ourselves. We start going, man, that wasn't cool. What am I thinking? And then I'm like, I'm not getting in any more shows anymore, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like on this high of like a complete shift of turn of events. And it's a bizarre road that we walk as artists, like If somebody likes our stuff or sends us a nice thing, we feel awesome. If nobody responds, we feel like we suck. So it's this Jekyll and Hyde, the Jekyll and Hyde of being an artist, And
Mm,
it's just it's like I want my worth not to be based off of somebody winking at me from across the room. Like, hey, I don't need you to acknowledge me. I believe in what I'm doing. It's so cool when you're acknowledged. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. And we
yeah.
need that. But we also have to trust in what we're doing and believe and actually have a very small circle around us to basically talk us off the ledge every day or every month. So yeah,
Wow.
it's been super cool. So right now there's a lot of cool things going on, and I'm just in a really cool place actually today. So yeah, sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I no, I love that. I'm reminded so many things there to unpack, Thomas. So many. I'm reminded of that conversation that I had with Joe Paquette a few months ago, where he was talking about authenticity. And I know you're a Paquette fan like myself, and when he's talking about balancing out that internal with the external, I mean, so many of us are looking for that validation from the outside. How do you maintain that you're doing things for the right reason, that inspiration, that internal drive, and not waiting for something from outside to say, "Hey, good job, kid, keep going." It's like, no, I don't got to have that. I'm just going. So, are there some things that you think about? Is there a way that you have to reset so you make sure that your mindset is on point so you can keep going? Because if you didn't have the validation, and I do want to circle back to some of the things, really cool stuff that you were just talking about, but if you didn't have that external validation, you think you could keep going?
External validation just from others you're talking about?
From others, but it could also be the sale, right? Because the sale is very validating too. And so what do artists do when they're not maybe making it as such, but they at the same time there's a voice inside that says, no, you're on the right path, keep going.
That's bizarre. I think that's why you need a few trusted friends around you. You need like maybe three people that can talk you off of the ledge and talk you out of a rainstorm that comes over your life for a month or so. It might rain for a month and it might be gray and you can't really see the sun. That's why you need a few people to help you. But a sale is a validation, and a shut door is disillusioning, but it also helps you to get extremely focused. What is what do I love, and what am I going after? What do I want to do? And so those are the things that keep me focused. So I'm not just drawing, like waking up and going, what am I going to draw today? What I'm going to draw and what I'm going to make today is based off of where I want to go, and some of the dictates or some of the things I'm going after. That fulfills my moments of creating. That helps me stay focused. So I know where I'm going. I've got this book coming out. I did a Mad World of Music. It's dropping. I don't know where the book is. Oh, it's right here. Hold on one second. I'll show you.
Awesome.
Hold on. I'm not just doing a shameless plug here. I
No,
am
do it.
definitely doing a plug,
Plug away.
but I want to show you this.
This is cool,
Okay.
man. This is cool.
So this is my advanced copy of the Mad World of Music, right?
Oh, so cool. I love that drawing, dude. I've seen you
Thanks,
post that
dude.
one. Yeah, that's
Thanks so
cool.
much. So the reason why I made this was because I'm going to Lightbox Expo in October 25th, and I wanted a book to sell. I have other books back there that I sell as well, but this is my brand new book, and it's all about music, and so it's got the Muppets in there, and
Yeah.
it's got who are these guys again? These are I can't remember these dudes. Oh man,
That's
Alt
cool.
J. It's Alt J. But
Yep.
anyways, the whole book is based off of music. And it's connected into what we love. We all love music. This is like the soundtrack of our lives. So it's this whole array of just the world of music, and it's just this cool thing that I made. that I'm definitely going to sell, but I'm also going to drop it open to the public soon. But
Amazing.
I have it for Lightbox. So this is coming in. So my thinking in terms of staying focused and not getting distracted and getting discouraged is where am I going? What am I doing? Well, I know that I'm going to talk about this book and I'm going to sell it and I'm going to open it up to my followers or people that are interested in what I'm doing on social media. So I'm going to draw a lot of different drawings. Here's a drawing of that I'm going to have inside the book of just a fat rocker playing a guitar,
That's
and I'm going to put this in the book. I'm going to have like 10 of these inside the book drawings that will allow me to sell this for a little bit more. But anyways, all that to say is my warm-ups in the morning are all based around drawing. I'm drawing John Lennon and Yoko right now. I'm doing a lot of ink studies because I've been studying Zorn in the last couple years. So I'm just having fun and using my time extremely wise. So I know I'm going to do some reels on Instagram, and so I've already dropped a few. But yeah, let me just show you this real quick. Hold on.
I love this. This is awesome. We're getting to look at all of the, getting a look at some of Thomas's beautiful drawings here. And again, if you're not watching the video version of the podcast, remember you can find the exclusive video version on Tisch Academy. Yeah, away you go, Thomas.
So, anyways, these are how I spend my morning.
Mhm.
I wake up early before I have to start my real job of drawing and making imagery, and I have a quiet time, drink a cup of coffee, get focused on what the reality of who God is in my life, in the world, and I just say, "Thank you, Lord, for my life," and then I start drawing. Anyway, so I know I'm going to do this book. And so these are some ink drawings I'm doing of Yoko and John, just because I really love
Wow.
this image. But these are just
Yeah.
studies. I don't care. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm just having a blast drawing. You can see other little
Mm.
studies that I did of the debate that went down, but I don't care, right? But these are cool little things, and I'm also going to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not money primarily motivated, but
Mhm.
it's workout. I'm shooting free throws. I'm
Mm.
exploring. It's self-generated. I'm not connecting this into anything, no motive, but just to freaking grow up and to understand how to draw and make stuff and how to create. And so then this is another drawing that I did of the same thing, and I have these really cool images of
I
when they
love it.
did a bed in.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And
Well,
and
yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just cool. And I have
Yeah.
a few others, I can't find them, but
So
all that to
awesome.
say is how do I stay disillusioned is I just try to remember where I'm going. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like
Mm.
what do I need to do? And then I connect these warm-ups into these studies into a direction that is I can use it then later. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But you said something there that I just want to go back to, which I find fascinating. So on one hand, you're asking yourself, what do I love? Which is really important.
Yeah.
But in another way, when you say, hey, look, I don't care, it's like you're emotionally unattached from the outcome. You seem to be the process guy, like the act of doing it for the love of doing it guy. This
Yeah.
authenticity that's within you just really comes through, and it's so
Hmm.
infectious, man. It is so
Ah, cool.
infectious.
Thanks.
So is that it? Is that am I framing it in the right way here? Is it just, hey, look, we're not focused on outcome at all here. We're not focused on anything else, but just the love of this subject. Am I hearing you right?
It's the love of drawing, not so much a subject, because
Okay.
I could fall in love with drawing bugs.
Yeah, man.
Um, but bugs aren't going to serve me
Hmm.
unless I just want to friggin' draw a bug, I will. But it's more connected into the love of drawing and the love of getting better and growing and discovering and learning how to draw. Like you don't arrive. I mean, look, I know how to draw, right?
Hmm.
Like you know how to draw, you know how to paint. I know how to paint. I've been trained, blah blah blah, right? But what I'm trying to do is draw in a way that I haven't drawn before.
Right on.
And that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in representational science. Like Joe said, when you're going to add the poetry, when you're going to add art, I mean, when you're going to add beauty as opposed to science, and science is all safe. Like, if you do this, you will have a perfect painting. And I look at the painting and go, I hate it. It sucks. I don't care. But when I see something like just suggestive and poetic and intuitive, and it's like, wow, it's alive. It's like, I want to draw in a way I've never seen before. I want to draw in a way I've never drawn before. And I don't want to draw safe. Like, I found myself this morning, I was drawing, I was like, and this voice said, what are you doing? You're trying to preserve this drawing. Why are you drawing to make a drawing? Like, why are you drawing to make something that feels like acceptable? Like, I want to draw to just freaking get to another level or understand something or draw in a way I haven't seen yet, draw in a way I'm not drawing. So that's what interests me a lot. And so I'm experimenting with things, So I don't know if that answers the question. I can't even remember what the question was. Sorry.
No, so we're talking. No, that answers it perfectly. So just talking about that I guess that initial inspiration behind why is it that why do you do what you do? What is motivating that thing, and putting that external to one side and just ensuring that you're doing this for the love of it. And so again, I can hear so much of that coming through, that it's this greater quest that you're on. I find that fascinating that you feel like you haven't arrived. You just said you never arrive. This was something I was obsessed with early on, is just, I want to master this thing. And I realized like that is actually impossible. If you're doing it right, there's always another rung on that ladder.
Yeah, I would say, I don't really believe in the word master so much.
Yeah. Agreed.
If somebody says he's a master or she's a master, that's a word I don't buy into it. Like, especially if somebody says, man, you're a master. I just think, I mean, it's a very nice thing to say, but I don't buy it. I don't buy into it at all. And I think it's safe to just say, I'm not being arrogant by deflecting any comments. What I'm trying to get at is, what does that mean? Like, what does it really mean? And for me, I just don't, I don't want to care, and I don't want to believe it, and I don't want to buy into it, because really what I want to do is just freaking draw and grow and develop and look to the next maybe 20 years and I'll be 81, and like,
Awesome.
Man, I make some really cool stuff in the next number of years if I just study with great people, learn, be teachable, be humble, and just try to develop and grow, So that's what I say. You never really arrive, but I really am digging what I'm doing right now. And it's okay to dig what you do. Dig what you do. Yeah, right. So it's like that'd be my shirt. Dig what you do. But
I love that. That's got to be a shirt, dude. That's got to be a shirt.
But it's like, it's okay to love what you do, to like it. But I didn't like my stuff when I go down to my basement and I walk out of there depressed because I have all these paintings and drawings that suck. And I was 30 years old, right? And I'm like, God, I was trying so hard to get noticed. And so it's like, now I'm just in a different place, but I know I'm drawing in a very specific way, but I need to know more. I just need to grow. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm aggressive with what I do, And I know you're the same way. I mean, your work, you keep getting better and better. Every time I see your work, you're constantly moving, you're constantly pressing in, and you're a major inspiration to thousands of people. And I just love talking with you. I want to meet you some days and we just sit down. I feel like we're brothers, we're twin brothers born 40 years apart or something, Because I think you're only like 20 years old.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm not quite yeah, I think you got me only by about 20 years, bro, not 40. But I appreciate that.
So
I've
you're
got
40. How old are you?
I'm gonna be 42 in a few
Dude,
months.
that's
So
awesome. I was
yeah.
hanging out with some dudes that were 42 this weekend. Josh Clare, if you know, he's a painter. He's
Yeah,
42.
I
And
love Josh
Alvin
Clare.
Vasica,
Yeah.
Valsalka, whatever his name is.
Cool, man.
These guys are like 40 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, these guys are awesome at 40. And
I
same
think
with you, man.
I think Josh Clare has got the coolest easel I have ever seen. Like, have you seen that easel that it disappears under his floor? It's almost like a Chuck
Oh
Close
yeah, yeah,
easel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. I've seen it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But
Yeah. So
well, we were talking about a few things there, but I yeah, you paid me a very nice compliment there, but I've got to say, and again, not being fake humble here, but the I find this is something that you come to occasionally with a painting, occasionally with a work. You hit it just right, and then other times you look at it, you're like, didn't quite get there, and I never know which way it's gonna go. And I'm
right.
so divided across so many tasks, man. Like there's so much going
Mhm.
on. There's so many moving parts in my life
Yeah.
that I constantly have, these ideas, rattling around in my brain, just going, yeah, when are you going to check back in this way? When are you going to really put your finger back on it and really hit this where it needs to be hit?
Mhm.
Because I just feel sometimes I'm off, but I only know when I hit it right after I've done it, and it's like, there it is. There's the painting. Other
Mhm.
times it does. I'll admit it is too much science. Because I'm thinking about lessons. I've got the video cameras going. I'm being watched
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that the teaching side of things, it's been such a blessing. But in other
Yeah.
ways, I'm still finding that balance within myself, of that external versus internal. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there was something that you mentioned before. I want to go back to this, because you're a man of faith, like myself,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was wondering about this. Where does faith and your art, what is that nexus point? Where do they intersect, and what does that look like?
Well, it's like, are they two different things? No, they're one and the same. It's like, it's my life is because, the Lord intervened in my life. I was just a stoner. I was so done and so broken, and I cried out, Jesus, if you're there, change my life. Don't make me religious. And bam, I had a conversion. Like he showed up on a street corner in New York City. So at that point, my life became alive to who God is. And it, and my prayer was, don't make me religious, change my life. And that's what happened. I never became religious. I became alive to him. And so then and I became alive to others. And the other thing that's really profound, and I say this a lot, there are, the, the, um, the desire for humility was not something that was of me. That was absent from me. A matter of fact, if I was never became a believer, you wouldn't even be talking to me because you wouldn't even like me. I was so arrogant. I was so full of myself, and it was very, very obvious. But when I became a believer, I became very interested in pursuing humility and being humble and learning about it and studying about it. So the presence of humility, or I'm not saying I am humble. What I'm getting at is the desire for humility is proof that God has shown up in my life. And so now as I pursue uh, art, it's I'm enjoying God in my art. They're
Mhm.
not two separate things. God, it's like Eric Little said in he was in Chariots of Fire, and when he ran, he said, "I feel God's pleasure when I run." He said, "When I run, I feel your pleasure, and when I draw, I feel your pleasure." And he said, "He has made me fast," and I say, "He has made me with the ability to understand how to draw and create." So He's made me fast. He's wired me this way. And I think anybody can learn art, but I don't think it's just like everybody could get to a certain high level. I think you're wired that way. Like I could study math all the time, but I am not going to be a mathematician because I friggin' hate it. But I'm doing what I love. So this whole idea of faith and work, it's for me, it's all a matter of God, I'm going to enjoy you in this day as I do this. So it's almost like this. I have a bowl of Wheaties in front of me. Lord, I'm going to enjoy you as I eat these Wheaties because you made me to enjoy and taste and have these taste buds that are present just explode and go, wow, that's cool. So the same coolness that I'm excited and enjoying a bowl of Wheaties, I'm thanking God as I'm doing it. It's not super spiritual. It's just the way it is. So if I enjoy a sunset, I see it set and I'm going, everyone is going, wow. I just know the God behind it because he's revealed himself to me in such a way that it's just like I'm alive to him. So I'm enjoying God in everything I do. So the long-winded answer is, how does art fit into that? It's they're both the same pursuit. I'm pursuing God, I'm pursuing art, and they're both intertwined. There's no distinction. Does that make sense? It's just an enjoyment. It's an enjoyment and an acknowledgement that I was washed up until you showed up in my life. And I would be such a doofus if you didn't keep me from being an arrogant fool. And as a matter of fact, this is an interesting story. This is so true. So I became a believer in '84, and like fucking months later, my pastor came over to my house at my apartment in New York City, and he goes, "Can I see your work?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I'm like a few months in being a believer, and I sit down on the bed, and there's a little futon, and I show him my work. I'm flipping through my portfolio because this was back in the day when there's no digital, 1984. And I'm flipping through and I'm saying, yeah, you see that drawing? I did that on newsprint and I controlled all that marker and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just showing him all my work. And when I was done, I put my portfolio up, put my portfolio up, and he's looking at me and he goes like this. And he just put his arm around me and he goes, God, I just pray for this proud man. I pray you would give him humility in his life. And I pray you would just humble him, that he wouldn't be arrogant. And I was like, wow, that was like the coolest thing that ever happened to me. He prayed for me to be humble because I was bragging that I controlled this newsprint and I did this and that. And so I understand the human nature, and I'll call it the fallenness of who we are as human beings, that we want to project. We want to, pride is competitive. We want to tell people how great we are. And it's not wrong to advertise and do things, but when you exert yourself in a conversation and you say your accomplishments and you want everybody to know, for me, that's pride, that's ego. But the people that I love, the artists I love, I don't really know many egotistical artists because most people don't like them. You talk to Joe Paquette, he's a humble man. All the artists I talked to this weekend, Thomas Blackshear, Frank Ordaz, Josh Leclerc, Albin Velasquez, however you say his name. Yeah. These are humble men, right? And so, and even Glenn Beck is a humble man when he spoke. So that's a long-winded answer. I'm sorry for going off, but
I love the long-winded.
It's necessary that I don't see. They're not separate pursuits. They're not separate realities. I enjoy my life as a gift, and I'm stunned that I get to do it with the care of God walking with me.
I love what you said there. I'm still really working this out for myself, but I feel like I'm on a similar trajectory to that, because so much a part of this is the act of appreciating. You're grateful for the opportunity to just be able to do this. And no, I love that. I find that whenever I'm in a headspace where there's a deadline, or I'm in this feeling like I've got to do it, and flipping the script a little bit and saying, no, I get to. And now suddenly it turns me into somebody that's motivated from outside to being appreciative from within. And now I'm on a different path, and occasionally I'll have something that just flips that switch for me externally that's able to push me in the right way. Normally it's a kind word from my wife, who's the stabilizing feature in my life, who's like, "Hey, make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Awesome. Wow. I love that. How we need our wives, right?
oh
We
man,
need them.
absolutely, we do." Um, so I'd love to hear more about this project of The Chosen. So I'm familiar with the show. I watched the first season. I didn't watch the second season. I mean, I got some views on it. Spiritually, we don't necessarily have to go there, but I was just looking at it going, okay, this is really interesting. I am glad that Jesus is making a comeback in terms of culture, that he's getting out there in that way. I think that could be a really good thing, but amazing opportunity that it's being turned into an animated series. I had no idea. So is this being, when is the release if it hasn't been released already? Is this out there for people to watch now? Can they see some of your work? And tell us a little bit more about your role for the project as well.
Yeah, so it's called The Chosen Adventure. And
Hmm.
really what it is, it's not going to show Jesus getting beat up and get his beard pulled out as he goes to the
Sure.
cross. That's not at all what it is.
Sure.
It's life in Jerusalem with Rome as a tyrant. And what is it's for kids to learn life and to understand biblical perspective of how to treat people and how to be and how to live. And it's really brilliantly written. And so it's dropping in 2025, early 2025. And what I did was I designed every living thing in the series. So I designed all the people and I designed every animal and every bug. There's a wasp that I drew, and yeah, so it's really, they let me be me, was really incredible
That's
because
awesome.
like one guy that works at Real Effects, it's an animation house. He kind of just explained it to somebody. He said, and they call me Tommy. They call me Tommy on this show or whatever. And he said, Tommy approaches it from a very unconventional approach. And I thought that was really good because I'm not interested in copying what's been done, like like a sheep that everybody has seen. I need to approach this as a caricaturist, as from a caricature mindset with different proportions. And that's what ruled everything. But also Sam Mishlap, who was the production designer, he had a whole worldview that was constructed in an hour long talk of Rome is all square, 90 degrees, bottom heavy, top, everything is squared off in precision and precise. Uh, the Jewish world is broken and it's tattered and it's tipped and it's crooked and it's fractured, and it's just like sin or brokenness of life or dependent on God. Like I designed the pigeon, with one leg, and somebody said, "Oh no, he's missing a leg," and I said, "Exactly. I want him to have one leg because we all are missing. We don't have a leg to stand on." When we start thinking about God standing in our own righteousness or in our own way, I mean, I'm going to stand before God and I'm going to be there for me. But we need a savior. We need somebody to stand and fill in that gap. We don't have a leg to stand on. It's basically, so they let me
Wow.
design this pigeon with one leg, and it was so cool. So they wrote it into the story. So there's this whole broken, fractured world of the Jews. Right? They're under oppression from Egypt. Rome comes in and starts ruling over them and grabbing taxes and demanding taxes, and everything is like completely broken down and oppressed. So Rome is strong. So, anyways, all these designs fit into this world. And it's so crazy. So some of the actors are coming in to do voiceovers and to work in the animated series. So I had to match. I had to draw the actual actor and turn him into an animated character.
Oh, wow.
It was unbelievable. So it's out right now. They just dropped it on Facebook. I shared a few things because these fans of The Chosen just started assembling these pages of the show now. So it's really insane. But I love these designs and I love these characters, and I'm really I'm I I'm getting ready to kind of announce myself to the animated world because I did another series as well that's coming out. And I designed all the characters for this other show. But nobody knows I do this. They just, oh, you do Blue Line, man. I love your Blue Line, blah, blah, blah. But like, I have been designing characters for a long time, and I am getting ready to sort of drop that. I'm going to actually do it at Lightbox, have a nice big banner behind me, Thomas Fluharty character design. So it's going to be cool. So, anyways, the show, I say this, I'm slowly becoming a believer in The Chosen because I was like, I'm not interested in a lot of the Christian cheese that goes on. But when I started seeing this show and hearing the writer and hearing the founder and hearing them talk through the difficulties, and then also the team, I was like, they're not interested in making a Jesus show. What they want to make is something that's really profound and different, but beautiful, but it gives God glory. So it's awesome. So, anyways.
That's cool. That's cool. I've just pulled up a little snippet here on your Facebook page. And again, just want to encourage people to check out the video version of this. And also, we will be putting out a shorter YouTube version here at some point of the podcast. But just incredible work. Incredible work, man. I would love to, and just before we tie that one off, I do really enjoy it when we get a chance to talk about faith on the podcast. People will no doubt know by now that I too am a man of faith. We don't often go there in the podcast because a lot of the guests just aren't there, and that's okay. And a lot of the people listening as well, absolutely. But it's just I think that it's just such a cool thing, man. So I appreciate this opportunity to be able to reflect on some of these things, and I love this. I love this opportunity that you've been given here. Just one thing on this. I think a lot about this, and I'd love to get your take on this. I think a lot about this in terms of just these chance happenings. You look back on it, you think, was that a chance? Was that an accident that this happened, or was it for his plans and purposes? And so you were talking about your association with Sammy and almost, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you were wording that in the beginning there was, he would call, you knew it was going to take a bunch of your time. You were almost a little reluctant in that regard, but it's like, no, better take the call. Was there some feeling that you got? It's like, no, hang on a second. This is important. You got to do this. Because I'll just say, like, I get that quite often. And there's this voice in my head that says, no, pick up the phone. No, open that door and go and answer the door. I know you're busy right now. Go and answer the door. Don't say no to these folks. I know you're busy, because part of me just wants to go, not right now. I can't. Not right now. I'm sorry. I'm not interested,
Yeah.
If you had done that, think about this door that wouldn't have opened for you. It's quite
so yeah. I want to address something you said. For me, it wasn't a reluctance to talk to Sam Mishlap, Sammy. I call him Sammy Boy. Sammy as a friend. We spoke the same language because he gets it. Like,
right on.
When you look at his work, he's an amazing artist, but he's really an unbelievable production designer. He's in these Zoom meetings. I don't even friggin' understand what he's saying. He knows this, right? So my reluctancy was, like you said, I'm too busy. Because like, oh man, Sammy, okay, I'm gonna talk to him. Hey, Sammy, what's up? And I'm really helping him at the moment where he was, right? He was coming out of leaving in the studio, and he just was kind of unsure, like he thought he was going to go on to Instagram and blow up his Instagram. So there was a lot of advice there. So my point was this. I didn't have any ulterior motives like, oh, well, he might get me some work in the future. That never came into my mind.
For sure. Yeah.
What I try to do is this. I never forget the fact that people are needy like I'm needy. And what I mean by that is this. Sometimes people just need you to like their drawing. You don't know what that does, right? It'll be, oh my gosh, Andrew Tischler liked my drawing. Or they leave a comment to you and you go look at his work or her work and you go to their page. Or here's what I do, and I'm not trying to, I don't mean this in any way. I'm making a bigger point. If somebody says, man, I really love that. I love the way you did blah, 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 right? I know that they spent a little more time with a compliment. I go to their page, I find out what their name is. And if it's Joey, Joey said this. So I go back and I say, hey, Joey, thank you so much. When they see, hey, Joey, thank you. And their name didn't say Joey, it just said J. Smith. But because I took a moment to look at this human being, that person can feel like $1 million, has nothing to do with me. But I don't know how much they love my work. It might be because of me, but I'm not saying this to elevate anything about me. I'm trying to say we all can do this, right? And it's kind of connected into what happened when I was like 16. I was a burnout on drugs, and everybody looked at me and said, you're weird, you're weird, you're weird. And this word weird destroyed me. And it just kept coming up over and over and over again. But there's this one kid, Joel Kraft. And Joel Kraft, his father owned these stores in Dayton, Ohio, these wood stores, these carpenter stores. And Joel Kraft was a cool kid, and he acknowledged me. He said something to me, and I was like, "Wow, Joel Kraft acknowledged me." And I was completely drugged out, burnt out. But to this day, I'm still having this conversation because Joel Kraft acknowledged me. And it changed my day. It changed my moment. It changed my life in the sense that there was somebody paying attention.
Please excuse this brief interruption. I just want to take a quick minute and tell you about this podcast sponsor, Rosemary & Co. Brushes. And just a note about sponsorship as well. I want to tell you something about me personally. I'm not going to recommend something to you that I'm not using. I'm a fan of Rosemary & Co. I've used their brushes for many, many years. And whenever I bring you a sponsorship, or if I'm going to be associating myself with some brand, it's going to be because I personally use it. I'm a fan. I think it's good. Otherwise, I would not recommend it to you. So let's just get that out the way. And I appreciate you allowing this brief interruption. But let me tell you, if you've been looking for the perfect brush to help bring your work to life, well, brushes really do help. Maybe it's going to take some skill and some talent, and you've done your homework, and maybe you've taken some of the demos over on Tisch Academy, but the brushes really do help. Let me tell you. If you're looking for a great quality brush, look no further than Rosemary & Co. brushes. These guys have been in the business of making the best quality artist brushes for well over 40 years. And in my opinion, they're just outstanding, second to none. Now, I've been using their brushes for many years, and they've totally transformed the way I paint. The control and the detail I can achieve is amazing. Whenever I pull out an ivory dagger and I'm making those details on the snow-capped mountains, these tiny little filaments of snow and this precision that I need to know that one ivory dagger is going to be exactly the same as the other, and it's going to be just as good. It's the consistent quality that I'm looking for. And it's not only that, it's the range that they have. They don't not only do oil painting brushes, acrylic brushes, they also do watercolor brushes, and heck, I've even heard of makeup artists using their brushes. So why would you settle for anything less? Your art deserves the best brushes, don't they? I mean, you've spent all of these hours working on these paintings. Surely you should be using the best tools that you can get your hands on. And look, I'm telling you right now, you'll be amazed at the value for money. They're not as expensive as you might think. So go ahead and head over to rosemaryandco.com and see for yourself why Rosemary & Co. are the gold standard for artist brushes. That's rosemaryandco.com. Get the tools that your art really deserves. I thank you for allowing this brief interruption. Shout out to Rosemary & Co. and thank you for sponsoring this episode of the Creative Endeavour. Let's get straight back into it with Thomas Fluharty.
There's a significance to how I do my life, and it's connected into other things, but I just want to help as many people that reach out, right? I want to be a human being and understand that somebody might be on a ledge, let's say a ledge of like artistically down or whatever it is, right? Like we're Jekyll and Hyde in any given day, you know, I'm not making light of bipolar, but we are back and forth, and you know, you're drawing and you're confident. This is amazing. And then you go eat lunch, come back. Fuck, what was I thinking?
Oh, dude, I can relate to that so much. It's interesting, yeah, putting it like the Jekyll and Hyde. Absolutely. Absolutely. I get that 100%. I how do you keep it together though? Who's the bad guy in that? It's been a while since I've heard the story of Jekyll and Hyde. Who's the bad guy? The one that shows up?
I don't know.
I can't remember. People are screaming right now at the podcast, going, "It's this one." But how do you balance it out when that internal critic shows up? That's the thing, you know. That's something that I still struggle with. It's like, you know, it sucks. Okay, but it's all right. I'm still on the path. Like because I feel that so many of us creatives have the tendency to be on that ledge and stay there, right?
Yeah, it can happen. How do you get off the ledge? Go for a walk. Go spend time with family. Go to a birthday party. Go to a soccer game. You know, there's life going on outside of it, and at the end of the day, that doesn't define me. Art does not define me. I am an artist. I'm an artist through and through. I'm nothing else. I'm
Mm.
I'm not I'm not I'm not a home repair guy. You know, like I don't do any of that. But you have to. You can't let that rule your life, because I'm not serving art. I'm not living or dying on art. It's just that one thing I get to do.
Mm.
And if it doesn't go well, or I get rejection, I might live with some discouragement for a moment or for a while. And to get out of that hole, all of a sudden I get a phone call or an email or something encouraging me.
Mm.
So anyways, I mean,
Mm.
I come back the next day and I look back and I go, wow, it wasn't what I thought it was. It actually worked. And then I just keep moving forward. If it doesn't work, I just start it again. I'll try it again, you know?
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that's how I move beyond that dark moment of maybe I suck or whatever. But I also have 40 years underneath me that I know that serves me well, because it might not be far off. It's just far enough off that I know that in deep down inside, you
Mhm.
know,
Mm.
because your taste starts becoming heightened. It starts becoming like it's like this ability to know, oh, that's off. But no other people would say, no, dude, that's awesome. But I'm like, no, that's not quite right. And if I have to finish the job and hand it in or give it off, and it's almost there, then that might have to be. But you know, I can either redo it if it's doable, unless I'm too far in.
Mm.
You know, like real quick, I did this for this show. I did this Glenn Beck show. I did um this Buffalo Bill um circus poster on Buffalo Bill, and it was really cool. It was like this big, right? And the whole thing, I don't even know where it is. The whole thing was crazy, and I did the whole thing. Anyways, I did the whole thing, right?
Mm. Mhm.
And every time I would do something, it would just not be right, and I moved on to the other thing, and it was like, that sucks. And I did something else. I was like, that sucks. And when I got almost done with the whole thing and the show was looming, the deadline, I was like, can't hand this in. These great artists are going to look at this and say, wow, he missed here, he missed there, he missed there, and he missed there.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just said, I'm gonna have another approach. So I had a whole nother approach that I spent time making something that I felt was really, really close to being as perfect as I could make it and as beautiful that I could sign off on. And the failed drawing is over here somewhere. I don't even know where, but I didn't submit that. But I still know it's a cool idea and some things are cool, but it just didn't measure up at the end of the day. So I just started and did a different approach.
Let's change gears a little bit here. A huge focus of this podcast is all about art business, and this is something I love to riff on with my guests that come on the show, because there's people that are listening that are just trying to figure out a way to monetize this. They're just trying to, get a little bit of an edge here, learn a new strategy, maybe find a bit of that mindset, that motivation, have a new approach, get a fresh take on things. Now, you have been so inspiring for me with the different things that you're doing, particularly with these book launches, but you also are the one that put me onto Eric Kuski's amazing book, The $1 Billion Painter, which was just awesome. I've now listened to it several times. It's one of my favorites. A tragic story of Thomas Kincaid, but a fascinating listen. I listened to the audio version. But I'm reminded of these conversations that we had earlier on about, even licensing your art and putting your stuff on stuff. Okay, so it's 2024 when we're recording this conversation right now. What are some of the things that you would be doing if you're an artist and you're just starting right out of the gates? Let's say you're retired and now you're changing gears in your life and you want to be an artist, or you're young, you're coming out of college, or you've skipped that step and you just want to go straight into art. What are some of the things that you would do if you had to approach this fresh in 2024?
Wow, that's a complicated question. It's a great question. The number one thing I would do is I would study with someone. That's the number one thing. This isn't about social media. It's about getting great, bottom line. And I scratch my head that Kwang Ho has 40,000 followers. No, I mean, we're talking universes apart with ability. Kwang is one of the best, greatest artists, I think, alive today. Guy is friggin' brilliant. 40,000. It's a complete injustice, right? Someone that's just playing a game. It's like, how can this be, right? So I wouldn't get caught up in the social media game. I would pay attention to it. I would just study with great artists, try to get as great as you can. And that requires studying with people, great artists, getting critique, getting critiqued. Um, try to find that one or two artists that are going to really help you grow as a draftsman and as a painter. And then it's like follow some of these artists that are already on social media, plug in the social media side, see who's succeeding, because success leaves clues, they say, right? And I'm copying Steven Silver. He's a really dear friend of mine. Like, I'm paying attention to what he does, and he and I become pals, and I love Steven. And Bobby Chu is another one. These guys are not succeeding accidentally. So I'm studying these guys. So what I'm saying is, if I was 21, I would also reach out to them. I would try to befriend them. And the way you befriend someone is like this buddy of mine, Max Schweitzer, who's a great young man, great young artist. He won Entrepreneur of the Year at I can't remember what college it was, but he reached out to me and just like he was just like, he wrote me this great note and said, here's what I'm doing. I love your work. And he's complimenting me and he's telling me what he loves about my work. But he's also humble and he's teachable. And he's just says, like he can help me in any way that he can. And I look at his work And we became friends, and he came to Lightbox, and just one thing leads to another. But like, it's almost like if the studio was right over there and I was a young kid, I would go to that artist's house and that studio. I would go there as much as possible and work and take his classes and take the trash out. I would I would wash his car. You need to get around great artists and pick their brains and watch them. So it's this duality of growing and developing and spending time as much as possible growing and doing it, making art, and then also networking and trying to build friendships. Because I built a lot of friendships just by reaching out to some people and say, "Man, your work is so amazing." And if it goes somewhere and the friendship becomes natural and ignites, so be it. That's great. But if it doesn't, I'm still going to tell them how awesome they are. Right? I'm gonna just say, "Man, your work is so great," and then I'll see him at a show, and we become friends, and you never know what could happen, but that's not my primary motive. So, all that
Mm.
to say is, if I was starting out now, I would definitely try to get as much chops by just doing it, drawing, creating around great artists with critique, and then also studying the social media side of it, and success leaves clues. Find out who's doing what you're doing or what you wanna do, and follow them and see what they're doing and go with it, go at it that way. That's exactly what I would do. Maybe there's other good things to do, but I already have friends that are hugely successful, and I study them.
I love that. I love that. How do you know when you're ready to either make an approach, make a pitch, go for a project or a gallery or whatever? How do you know when your work's up to a standard that you're ready to dive in?
Well, that's a good question as well. That's a really good question. Um, how do you know you're ready? I would say the mindset has to be that this is a marathon and not a sprint. It's a crock pot, not a microwave. There's no quick, right? There's no shortcut with what we're doing. Um, I'm 40 years in when the internet happened, especially Instagram, Facebook 2004. I already had 30 years under my belt at that point, 30 years. So everybody right now is just playing, not everybody, a lot of people are playing games and they're building huge followings, but they're not even that good. You see what I mean? So it's like, how do you know when you're good enough? I don't know. I would encourage you to get an Instagram account. I would encourage you to try to grow your numbers. If you get 1 million followers and you're not that good, and that's great marketing. Thomas Kincaid would be a perfect example. He blew up without the internet,
Mhm.
and he was better before he became Thomas Kincaid as a landscape plein air painter with James Gurney. Him and James are best friends, and they would go out and paint like crazy. And I love's a strong word. I liked Thomas's work then, but he blew up and became a billionaire, and then just had to serve a beast of a company. And he
Wow,
just
yeah.
got lost in it all. Anyways, all that to say is, how do you know when you're ready? I don't know. I know when I think I might be ready, but I've done a lot of different work over the last few years and talked to some galleries and friggin' ignored, completely ignored. And so I welcome shut doors. I'm not saying that to be sound cool. Shut doors for me are a good thing, and they cause me, because I look at what comes out of a shut door, and then that direction or that adjustment after that shut door. And it's not just one shut door I pay attention to, it's multiple shut doors.
Right
So
on.
when multiple shut doors happen, I'm like, okay, God, you're not opening that door. Fine. I'm gonna keep going in this one direction. And I'm always trying to find out what's gonna monetize itself. Like, I'm paying attention to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I already know some things that are hot with connecting into a love. The blue line, the 901 Indigo Blue, there's a love for that. And there's a look of the 901, but there's also what I'm connecting into is this idea. We all love drawing, all of it. We all want to be great at it. and we love those who are great at it, and we're inspired by them. So those are three things that I know that are in my favor in this I can monetize it. So I pay attention to that. But I also want to maybe do some cowboy. And there's a big painting up here that I started a saloon fight
Oh yeah, yeah, that
that
one.
I
Yeah.
just set aside because I've been ignored in the cowboy world. So I'm going to come back to that, but I haven't forgot it. And then
Yeah.
after being at this show with a lot of cowboy artists, I came back and looked at this today and said, I need to finish. This is this is not far off. I need to keep going. So rejection is great. When are you ready? Talk to people, talk to a few, keep going, whatever you're doing. And even if you're young, don't give up. You don't have to wait till you're 40 to succeed. You can make a great following, and be 25 and make a ton of money. My point is, get great though. Try to keep getting great.
I wish people could really hear that though, to understand how many doors have been slammed in your face. I mean, you know, here you are, Thomas Fluharty. Dude, I love your work. I love you, man. It's just so inspiring. And you know, me too. I mean, I've had those doors slammed in my face, and at the time, it's like, yeah, this sucks. But looking back now, I'm like, thank you for that. You know, it's either I dodged a bullet there or whatever. I'll give you one. I'll give you one. This one's a little bit off the wall, but I'll give you one. So there was a gallery in Perth in Western Australia that I was in meetings with, and there was a chap. He was running this really nice fine art gallery in a little seaside town called Fremantle. And years and years later, I just moved to New Zealand, and there was an exhibition that was in Wellington, and it was all about the occult. And I walked in and I saw, I was like, I got to go in and see, is this what I think it is? And I saw Aleister Crowley originals. And if people listening know who Aleister Crowley is, he's sometimes been described as the most evil man ever to ever have lived. Like this is a dark individual playing with spiritual things that he shouldn't have been. But I looked at this show and I was like, oh my goodness. And then I saw who put it on. It was the same guy. The same guy was and I was like, whoa. I was like, thank you, dodged a bullet here. And on my way out, I said, is this guy, this is a curator? It's like, and taxpayer dollars went towards funding this. I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. I was like, dude, man. And so, you know, sometimes a shut door, sometimes something that doesn't pan out, doesn't go your way, you know, sometimes it's a good thing. But other times, you know, whenever I've gotten rejection, I felt like this is feedback. You know, I approached a gallery earlier on. I got the door slammed in my face, and the comment was, "You're not good enough." And so I just was like, "Well, I'll show you." So what did I do? I went and got good. I as good as I could, you know. But I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, that are feeling like it's just not working. It's like, well, okay, well, maybe it's just not meant to right now. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do with this feedback that you're getting right now? And also maybe this rejection isn't a bad thing. Just reframe this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, we all have had rejection, and it's I mean Spielberg, you know, sorry, Steven
Okay.
Spielberg's rejected, right? He was rejected. I mean, everybody is rejected, and it's just that thing that that it's par for the course. But you just you really have to ask yourself, you know, what am I going after? What do I want? What do I love? And I mean, there's no real like smooth answer for it because but we all have had it, you know. But again, you know, I just it makes me want to be better. You know what I mean? And sometimes rejection is no, not now. Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Mm.
Um, I have this thing. I've seen it on Instagram. You know, they give these little things like you know, and it'll say, "Don't chase people," and that has been so helpful for me don't chase people. If they don't want to work with you, don't chase them. There are people that are going to want to work with you. That's going to happen at some point, but don't chase them. Don't be like, oh man, there they are. Hey, remember me? Can I stop by your gallery? Oh, I'm going to be in Paris. Oh, and then they just keep ignoring me, keep ignoring me. And I'm like, man, I can't get in there. Like, dude, what? I don't care at this point. Like, I don't need that because I
Right
know
on.
there are going to be people that are interested, genuinely interested, and love me for what I'm doing, right?
Right
And
on.
so it's like I don't chase anybody anymore. And I think that's extremely helpful information. Don't chase somebody who doesn't is not interested.
Right on, man. Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, I've done a lot of that. I look back and I just cringe. It's like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Oh, have, I've so enjoyed this so far. This has been an awesome conversation.
Right back at you, brother.
Is there anything else that you would you want to throw in the mix here and talk about? Anything that you think would be a good area to go? I could set it up, ask you a question here, but I just love riffing with you.
Yeah, yeah. A cool thing that's happening is I'm starting a podcast with two other really good buddies,
Oh, tell
and
us about it.
yeah.
Tell
So
us about it.
I say that carefully because everybody starts a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to do this or that. I have no intentions of blowing up or anything like that. This is another thing. I believe in organic growth, organic movement.
Yes.
So if I'm going to do a podcast, I'm not doing it for a motive of being famous or getting known or building a following and having it be a YouTube thing and it blows up because I'm not interested, right? But if I can do this podcast that already is awesome based off of my friendship with Wouter Tulp and Jonathan Hardis, we sat down at Lightbox for the last few years and we just have a blast talking and laughing. And I'm already great friends with Wouter. I don't know if you know Wouter Tulp. It's
I haven't met him yet.
Wouter. So Wouter Tulp, Tulp. Amazing artist, amazing draftsman, dear friend, super humble, incredible artist. He teaches the schoolism. He's done all kinds of character design he just did Leo with this animated feature with a lizard. And Wouter is a friggin' brilliant artist.
So
Um,
cool.
can't can't rave enough about him. He does everything well, and one of the few that does everything well.
That's
And he and I are pals. We have a booth at Lightbox coming up. By the way, I can keep rambling. You just got to tell me when you're done.
No, no, you're good. You're good. I
But
just pulled
base,
him up, by the way.
yeah,
I've just pulled him
yeah,
up here, and
yeah.
I love his stuff already. So cool.
Wouter,
Right on.
Wouter's amazing. We've known each other for more than 10 years or so.
Awesome.
And we traveled together. We were in Vienna together and I love Wouter. He's a dear friend. So we just connect at such a level. And then Jonathan Hardis, who teaches at Schoolism, he's an amazing artist as well. He's a great artist and he's got this incredible story, but he is so funny. So he's like an MMA trainer fighter thing. And he shows up wearing like a donut shirt at like Lightbox where all these artists are, and he's got this like pink shirt with a donut on. I'm like, dude, you're wearing that today? So we just have this banter back and forth of just natural. So we're doing this podcast, all three of us. And we'd already did the first one, and we did it under a name that is actually taken. That shows you how stupid we are. So the name of our podcast was 3 Point Perspective. I wanted it to be the Three Art Migos, but they didn't buy that. So I thought the Three Art Migos was really awesome. And then so I think we came up with this new name. It's called What Brush Do You Use? And that's a funny thing. John goes, "Yeah, we're going to talk about welcome to welcome to What Brush Do You Use?" And we'll answer every question but that. And so it's like this thing where we're going to talk about all kinds of things, art, because we love art and it's just so cool. So this podcast, we're going to do one season of like 12 or 15, and we're going to record like 4 and start dropping them in the next month or two. And they're 90 minutes. And we just are going to go off. We're going to talk about what's bad art. Why is it bad? Good art versus bad art. We're gonna talk about the Wyeth plan. Why is Andrew great? We're gonna talk about science versus poetry. We're gonna have a podcast on that. We're gonna interview some great artists. I don't want to say who yet because we haven't asked their permission though. But there are two specific rock stars that I love: Pascal Campion and John Navarez. But we need to ask these guys before I announce their names, so you can keep it in here in case they hear this. So, anyways, it's not going to be like, we don't want it to be a normal podcast. I don't have any problem with someone starting a podcast. Say, how'd you get started in art? Because those are always amazing. But we want to talk about different things. So, anyways, this podcast is going to be cool. It's going to be on every platform. John knows everything about it. He started rambling off all these different platforms. It's going to be a visual. We're going to have it on YouTube as well, but it'll be a visual podcast, not just audio. So, anyways, that's coming up. That's going to be really, really cool. Also, I'll be going to Paris I'm going to Lightbox. I'll be in Pasadena at Lightbox Expo, sharing a booth with Wouter Tolp, and I'll have the Mad World of Music. I will have a lot of original art and a few prints, and I'll have my cowboy book, and I'll be selling originals and meeting people. That's going to be amazing. That's October 25th to the 27th. That's awesome. I'm also drawing with James Gurney on Friday morning, which is going to be crazy cool, and like 10 other artists.
Oh, wow.
And 300 or 400 other artists are all gathering to draw outside before it starts. So that's going to be cool. And then we come back from that, and 4 days later, I fly to Paris to do a 3-week workshop in Paris, which is going to be absolutely bonkers. It's going to be insanely cool. Drawing, teaching at Beaux-Arts Entertainment, and love these guys. They have an amazing art atelier in Paris, and we're going to hit up all the museums. We're going to go to the Bone Museum. We're going to go to the Bone Museum is off the charts. You just Google it.
Okay.
And look at this place. We drew there last year, did a workshop there. We're going to go to the museum. We're going to go to Louvre. We're going to go to Musée d'Orsay. We're going to do Petit Palais. And we're going to draw from in the studio. We're going to do some character design and just tons of drawing. It's going to be unbelievable. And that's going to be November 4th to the 22nd. If they can take 1 week, cool. I have people coming in, flying in and doing this. They're taking 1 week. Some are taking 2. Some may be doing 3. Maybe they just do the 3rd week. But that's going to be off the charts. And then the book is dropping somewhere in between all of this as well. Somewhere around the first week of October or December. That's it. Also, I have 2 books that I want to do. One book, and I'm going to turn it into a class of schoolism. It's called The 20 Biggest Drawing Mistakes and How to Fix Them. That's going to be really cool. That's going to be a class I want to make at schoolism if Bobby signs off on it. I think he already has. But that's cool. And then I want to do another book on the Dutch Flemish technique. And that's going to be a video as well, but I'm also going to turn it into a book. And I'm teaching on schoolism all the time. And I'm on Patreon. If anybody wants to follow me on Patreon, please don't jump over and follow me and leave Andrew. Oh, Andrew's not on Patreon anymore. But I'm on Patreon. Yeah. No, dude, you crushed it. So anyways, it's a joy to be with you and to see what you do. And you always inspire me, especially your entrepreneurial madman pursuits. You're always crazy. I don't know. I don't even know, man. You're just like, you're out there. You're constantly moving on, constantly going. And your art is always off the charts, and you're getting better. Every time I see your work, I'm like, man. I think I told you your word is epic. You own the thing is, I think we've had this conversation.
Dude, we have.
Pick a word and own it.
That
own
was
it.
So
you're owning epic.
But this is the thing that I really appreciate, and I so appreciate the kind words. I hope I deserve them, but I know you mean them. But look, man, we had a conversation. I think it must have been a year, if not maybe 2 years ago, but we just had a real just heart to heart, and you were just like, hey, dude, you're in this spot. And I was in a bit of a spot. And you're like, you're in this spot because you've lost touch with your category. You know, and this wasn't a hey, Tish, stay in your lane. It was you've lost your category. And I remember specifically, it's like, okay, when you think of Tommy Flu, what do you think of? And it's like indigo blue. It's like, right on. Okay, you think of Joe Paquette, what do you think of? It just said incredible plein air. Cool. Like that's his category. Now, it's not to say other people can't have that category, but I was just getting into too many different pies. And that was a really, I just want you to know, man, like that was a really important paradigm shift for me, that your willingness to be honest with me at the risk of, at the time, you were probably thinking, oh, look, this might offend him, but he's got to hear it right now. Not at all. Like it just got me. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's fair. I'm taking it on the chin, and I'm gonna really process this and have a recalibration as a result of this conversation. So I hope, man, I really hope we get a chance to hang out in person, but I just really, respect you as an artist and value you as a friend, even though we don't get to talk that often. When we do, it's just so important for me, and it's been a huge impact for me. So just want to say, man, thank you for this opportunity here. Again, really appreciate your time, and thanks for being on the Creative Endeavor.
Dude, it's an honor for me to hang with you and be your buddy. We've been friends for the last few years, and so yeah, I look forward to what's in the future and continuing to chat.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Creative Endeavour Podcast. A huge thank you and shout out to Thomas Fluharty for joining me. Right now, if you're not following Thomas on Instagram, do so immediately. He can be found at Thomas Fluharty, all one word, and that last name is spelt Fluharty, and on his website at thomasfluharty.com. Now, Thomas has been so inspiring for me over the years, and I always get so much out of these conversations. I hope you do too. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Creative Endeavour Podcast, then please let me know by leaving me a rating or a review on whatever audio platform you're listening on. It makes a huge difference to the show. If you enjoy the Creative Endeavour and you want it to hang around, then another way to support this show is to follow me over on Tisch Academy, where you can see for just the very basic studio tier, you can see the official video version of the podcast. So make sure you check that out at tisch.academy. I'll include that link in the show notes. But thank you so much for spending this time with me here and Thomas here in the studio. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you again in another episode of the Creative Endeavour.